Hi, everybody, and welcome to Revisiting Disney. This is the series in which I sort of get to play Armchair Imagineer. Either you suggest or I pick an attraction from Disneyland or Disney World that I've ridden before, and I sort of approach this question of what would I do if I had to replace that attraction with something else. And I don't go too far out of the scope of what the original attraction was. I try to figure out what the spirit of the original attraction is and what we all love about it, and come up with an idea that I think would also capture that spirit. And it doesn't mean it's because I want to see that attraction necessarily replaced, although sometimes that is totally the case. I just think it's a really fun creative exercise, and I think it's a cool way for all of us to think about the rides that we love and to think about ways in which we could put something that we would also love there. And today we're back in Disneyland, and we're taking a look at a classic attraction. Well, the attraction's kind of new, but it's based on a classic. Well, let's just jump into it. It's Finding Nemo's Submarine Voyage. Now, Finding Nemo's Submarine Voyage is the new attraction. What was there before was just called Submarine Voyage. And of course, in Disney World, the equivalent was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which has now been replaced with the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. They are beloved attractions. I got to ride Finding Nemo's Submarine Voyage for the first time this summer. I thought it was very interesting, and I thought it'd be a very interesting attraction to tackle and try and revisit. And I think the easy way to revisit this, that I'm not going to go with for the video, would be to say, well, let's get rid of the ride, pave it over, and use that space for something modern, like a roller coaster or whatever. But I don't want to do that. I think there's something very interesting about the history of this attraction and the spirit of this attraction that I would love to try and capture in a new one. And that is mainly this idea of boarding a vessel that feels not completely realistic. Obviously, I've never been on a real submarine, but I would wager that's not what a real submarine's actually like. But it's that idea of entering that vessel and going off and using these cool effects to try and make it feel like you really are going somewhere else. And I found it very interesting, too, because this attraction, I think, by all accounts, is very antithetical to what you would expect Disney to create today, because you have to load the submarine, which takes a while. You can only fit so many people in a submarine. There are only so many submarines. It just wasn't built to get a lot of people through the parks. And today I think you see a lot of rides with that in mind, which is we just want to get as many people through the attraction as possible. And this doesn't do that. And I think an idea that I would go with would also stick to the submarine idea of putting you in a vessel, although not a submarine. The other thing I'm doing with this is I'm not tying it in with a property. I know I've done that a lot in the past, and I've even criticized Bob Iger for doing that with a lot of the new attractions in the parks, or I guess Tom Staggs as well, which is always trying to tie it to some sort of property, but not in this case. This case, it's just going to be an original idea, and here's the idea. Instead of using submarines to make people feel like that they are descending into the depths of the ocean to explore under the sea, why not use the same ride mechanic and the same sense of tricks to make it feel like you're boarding an airship and you are using these effects to go high over California or wherever, almost like a real-life Soarin', a real model-size Soarin'. And so the idea is you're taking out the submarines and you're placing them with what I would call like a Zeppelin cabin, right? And the most interesting and challenging part of this, especially because I believe the submarines go underneath the monorail tracks, is to build the body of the Zeppelin above the cabin so that people from the outside of the attraction look at it as if they are actually boarding a Zeppelin. Maybe it's a deflated Zeppelin and inflates. Maybe it's just small enough to fit under the monorail beams. I'm not really sure. But the idea is it's an airship. And the idea is when you get in, similar to how the ride works now, where you sort of see a seawall really close to you. And then what they do is they use this clever trick where they make the sound effects of you diving in the submarine, and they blow all these bubbles past the windows so you can't really see past the bubbles. And then it's like you are revealed to be under the water. And even though you haven't really gone down at all any additional depth to when you first got on, it feels like you went further down. And I want to use similar effects to make it feel like you've risen above. And so make the idea that when it starts, all of the detailing on the outside of the windows are that of like an airship port. And then as you're pulling out, you have the smoky cloud effects as if it is rising very quickly into the clouds. And then as it clears, what you end up seeing is not an underwater pool of, sea life, but a vast miniature city or world. And I mean, that's something Walt really loved. He loved miniatures. And he loved playing with them and building them and creating a world out of them. And I think it'd be a cool throwback to create, instead of a lagoon of water, this miniature world, so that when you're on this Zeppelin and then the clouds clear, it looks like you're looking down at like this little city, and you have like the little cars moving. I think you could use a lot of really cool effects to really, I guess as Disney would put it, plus the idea of a miniature, right? Because there are still some things in Disneyland, Disney World, that involve miniatures because Walt was so into them, but they're more classical. They're a look back, and so they're very, I think, basic in terms of technology. But I think there's a lot of really cool technology that we can employ, whether it's projection technology or just, you know, the wiring of lightings and how detailed we can get with programming the lightings to make it look like an actual city that's moving and breathing down there. I think it'd be fun. I don't know what the story would be for it, because you are just sort of on an airship. I mean, similar to the submarine, there's a very light story there, so it doesn't have to be that crazy. Maybe, you know, you can use some of that advanced technology to make it seem like, oh, you're being attacked by, you know, World War I pilots or something, and you have planes flying by, and so you have the sound effects of you being strafed, and it seems like things are going to go bad, but things make it in the end, and I think that would just be a lot of fun. And I think it'd be cool because it would use the same concepts behind putting you in a vehicle that seems authentic, using effects to make it seem like you're going somewhere else when you're not, to put you into an environment that is an extreme that you're not actually in. And I think that'd be a really cool way to do it. The one thing I'm not 100% sure of how I would deal with is the idea with the lagoon. People walking by can just go ahead and they can look out on it and they see a nice water lagoon. If you empty that out and put a sea of miniatures, does that kind of kill the effect? Maybe. One idea I had was maybe layer it with like fake clouds so that they can't see down on the miniatures until you're on the ride itself. But I don't know how good that would actually look. But hey, that's an idea that you guys can throw out there. I don't know. Maybe this is an awful idea. Maybe you don't like it at all. Maybe you think it's really great. What I really want to know is, what would you do if Bob Iger of Disney came to you and he said, hey, we're going to be removing Finding Nemo's Submarine Voyage next year. What are we going to put there? What would you want to put there? I always think it's fun to think of attractions in these ways. I certainly think this would be a cool idea. Maybe I've only ridden it once, so I'm not really ready to have it replaced right away. But I think this would be a cool direction to take it in, rather than just putting, you know, another roller coaster there. Anyway, thank you for watching. You can let me know in the comments below what you want to do with this ride. You can let me know on Twitter. I'm at RobPlays. And you could also let me know what attraction you would like to see me revisit next. Thanks for watching. Have a great week. And I'll see you next time for the next episode of Revisiting Disney. Bye, everybody.